full spoiler warning right off the bat because I mean I'm talking about everything. I'm talking about the ending. I'm gonna talk about Switzerland or Europe more so, Madison Square Garden, and Jimmy and Kayla taking more latitude. So I just spoiled everything. So if you haven't seen season 5 of Hacks yet, I'm sorry, I guess. But also go watch it. Do yourself a favor, go watch it, and then come back to this. Because there's a rare breed of comedy where you are laughing in 1 minute, but then you're just like crying in the next minute. And for me, that is season 5 of Hacks. More so the finale with the crying part, but the laughing, that is in every single episode. So yeah, I mean, just when we start off in season 5, we see Deborah after she has finally gotten everything she wanted, but then lost everything she wanted because again, season 4, she had a late night show and she was number 1 in the ratings. She was like a legitimate cultural figure, television institution. She had everything, the respect, the fame, and of course, this is Hacks. Our characters can never have anything good, so she loses everything because she calls Bob Lithgow out on his censorship and just, you know, unethical behavior. And she loses everything. She loses her show. She or he launches a smear campaign where he calls her crazy and troubled. She, she has a non-compete clause. So because of that contract, she's just stuck in this endless legal battle and she can't do anything. On top of that, she starts being erased by the industry. Like her specials get pulled down, every single episode and every single clip of her show gets pulled down, and she's basically erased, and she has to climb back from that. And she's still rich, she's still successful, but that's kind of that's not it. It's not about being successful. It's not about chasing that goal. It's about her reclaiming what her legacy is going to be and not a legacy that's written for her by Bob Lipka. And she has to figure out how she's going to do that. And of course, she chooses just the most Deborah Vance thing possible, which is I'm going to sell out Madison Square Garden on 9/11, no less. The funny thing is she hasn't even booked the venue. She just kind of goes and announces to the public, "I'm going to sell it out." So she has to figure out how to actually get the venue, and then has to figure out how to actually sell it, and then also just how to rewrite her history. I mean, like the whole thing with her ex-husband getting all the credit for the show, and her being blamed for burning the house down when that never actually happened. It kind of all comes together in this whole Madison Square Garden and her trying to promote it. And then she finally does. She gets the venue. She sells it out and everything is going so well and it is special and then there's no one there because the entire thing becomes another attempt by Bob Lipka to silence her. Because he buys up every single ticket, which I know that they said that the tickets are going to be cheap because she wanted to have, I forgot what her fans are called, the Debbies, I believe. She wanted to have all the Debbies be able to afford it. But still, I mean, buying an entire stadium as an individual, that is a stadium like Madison Square Garden, no less. That is wow. I mean, he must really hate her if he's gonna do all of that just to like screw her over and just to jaw rule her as they said. But you know what? It still doesn't stop her because she pivots. She finds she's gonna perform in Central Park and it's a free performance, but the most people in Central Park history for the performances. And you know, people show up, the jokes they land, and she has kind of everything that she ever wanted. And this whole thing, I mean, Hacks is just it's such a smart show. First of all, it's funny. It's a comedy that's funny. And I know that's kind of thing, like, that's kind of crazy to say, like, yeah, that's what it's supposed to be, right? But you'd be surprised at how many comedies you watch where the final season or two, they're just not funny anymore. It's like they kind of turn into full dramas. and then, you might have a joke. You might have one joke every 3 episodes or something. No, Hacks always remembers that the primary goal of a comedy has to be funny, and it is consistently funny. It is funny in the character interactions. I mean, the episode where Deborah and Ava are pretending to be a couple is just hilarious, and I actually have a little bit more on that later. That is one of the funniest episodes I have ever seen. And then also, it Deborah's stand-up is also genuinely funny because I've seen so many shows where the stand-up is just not that funny. I think, The Marvelous Miss Maisel, where I think the stand-up is funny, and I think the show is awesome, but then it kinda does have that cardinal sin of the last season is just not very funny. But yeah, I mean, we finally see Deborah's performance in Madison Square Garden, and it's I mean, you don't see a full hour of stand-up like she probably would have done i in real life, but just the small glimpses you get, it's actually great. And also, Jean Smart, she is just absolutely unbelievable, and, just cancel the Emmys, you don't need the ceremony, just put that trophy in a box and FedEx it to her. I mean, she has got that thing on wrap, or she better, because I know that she can actually make history with this because I believe she won for every single other season, so she has the opportunity to actually sweep the best the Best Actress award. Hannah Einbinder, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but Hannah Einbinder as Ava is also just fantastic because she's kind of the emotional center of the show, and the show does a good job of playing her character because she is constantly whining and complaining, but it never really gets annoying. It's always charming and funny, and that is difficult to do because those characters can get really tiring. I mean, it's part of the reason I don't love Tom Holland's version of Spider-Man. I know everyone loves him, but I just found him, especially in Far From Home, extremely whiny. But Ava never really gets that. She's consistently great and one of my favorite characters of the show. And just Ava and Deborah together, they're we've just seen how much the relationship has progressed because it was kind of like it was a contentious one, and then eventually Deborah became a mentor, and then they actually identified as coworkers, and they were rivals at a point, but now they're close friends. Hell, I'd even say they're family. And like two, speaking of a dynamic of awesome characters, Jimmy and Kayla, because I think they are low key the funniest part of this show. Because Jimmy, he spends 5 seasons being pretty competent and good at his job and a good person, but nobody listens to him. And then Kayla is I can't even describe Kayla accurately. She's a mess, and chaotic, and every single scene of them just feels like it's devolving into chaos, but it somehow still works, and they're somehow still functional as coworkers. So when they finally expose the fraud at Latitude and end up taking over the company, it doesn't feel random. It feels like if you told me that is what happened before I watched this season, I would have been like, I don't know about this. It just feels very random. But when you actually watch the show, it just feels earned. And I don't know if the writers have been setting that up for very long. I would have to probably rewatch it, but at no point did it feel like that's bullshit. And then we get to Switzerland or Europe. I don't know if they ever actually got to Switzerland, but basically that whole episode, Deborah reveals that she is planning to go to Switzerland and go to one of those. And I'm trying to figure out how to say this on YouTube, but she's gonna go to one of those facilities to basically because she doesn't want to deal with chemo. I think that's enough for you guys to get the gist of it. And oh my god, um it's kind of what I said at the beginning, where it manages the laughs, but it has the humor because I am I am somehow crying, but I'm also laughing at the same time, and then and I'm crying because I'm sad, but I'm also laughing because it's hilarious. And or at a point, the tears they start coming out because I'm laughing so hard that I'm tearing up. I mean, it is awesome. It is just an amazing episode, and I genuinely thought that that is how it was going to end. I thought we were going to get a very, very sad ending to this show. There's a moment where Deborah is writing in her notebook, and I thought that she was going to, I thought she was going to just leave Ava, and that was going to be the end of it. And I was ready to just be like in a puddle of tears. And then she tells Ava, I can't remember what the exact line is, but the line was something like, "I don't know how many years I have left, but I know I have another hour. Will you write it with me?" And it, yeah, I mean, I'm getting choked up just thinking about about the line. That line got me so much, and it's I like it because she's again, it's the hour is an hour of comedy, but that's she's not choosing the comedy. She's not choosing the fame. She's choosing more time to create art with Ava, and that's what made the ending hit so hard. I'm also so glad that they didn't make Deborah and Ava into a romantic relationship, because I know I've seen the ships all over the internet. It's Deborah and Ava got to get together, and then which weird, and then Jimmy and Kayla. Neither of those relationships end up happening, and I'm so glad it doesn't, because I feel like a lot of comedies, they'll see ships on the internet and then they will, or not just comedies, but shows in general, and they'll have them on the show, and then the show just ends up feeling like fan fiction with like a very high production budget. But Hacks knew what these relationships were, and making them romantic would have changed the entire vibe of the show, because this show, I mean, the relationship between Deborah and Ava, it's it's complicated and loving, but not in a romantic way. It's also a little bit toxic, a little bit maternal, but also professional. It blends all of those things. That's what makes it interesting. If they were to make it a relationship, I think I think that would have just been too much. And I'm trying to think of like major criticisms of the season. I really don't have that many. Maybe some people think that the later half is a little bit too emotional, but honestly for me it worked, because ultimately, even though it was emotional, this show was still really funny, and it was still very, very sharp. And in the end, I think Hacks joins that really small group of shows that actually sticks the landing. And yeah, and endings are hard. Some would argue that endings for comedies are even harder, but Hacks managed to be funny and emotional and just satisfying up until the final scene. And that, oh my god, that is so rare. So yeah, I mean, if you're gonna ask me for a score, Hacks, it's a recommend. It's an easy recommend. One of the best comedy finales I've ever seen. One of the best final seasons of TV that I've ever seen, and one of the best comedies ever made. So yeah, that's all I have to say about Hacks season 5. I want to know, have you seen it? What did you think about it? And you know what? What is your favorite comedy finale of all time? Whatever it is, comment below and let me know. And as always, if you like what you've seen here, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.